Hello and welcome to a new semester. I am Dr. Andrew Runka, and this is COMP3007, Programming Paradigms Online. In this video, I'll provide an introduction to the course, including what it's about, where to find stuff, and some tips on how to succeed. But let's start with where to find stuff. So by the time this video is released, you should all have access to the course on CU Learn. There's not a lot of content in the CU Learn. What's there so far is an announcements forum, that's for me announcing things to the class, a discussion forum, and this is for the class to ask questions, and if you feel up to it, answer them as well, and a link to the course website where most of the content will be housed. The main reason for using CU Learn in this course is as a portal for submitting your assignments online. So as the assignments are released, links will appear down here under this assignment submissions section. You'll submit your assignment through there and you'll get feedback through that same way as well. So let's continue on to the course website where most of the actual content is stored. So the main page of the course website has a bunch of useful links, things like links to the IDEs for the languages we'll be learning, some useful textbooks, and a bunch of other resources that are available. As well, it has a list of announcements down here that will get populated as new things occur in the course. Now, down on the left is how to navigate through all the course. So we have the course outline. We'll come back to that in just a minute. List of all the course lecture contents, the lecture notes, any code files we create, any videos that I publish. This won't look as full at the moment, but in time, each one of these videos will get populated and added to this table. Down here we have the assignments. So the assignments, this is the links to the actual assignment questions. These will appear as the assignments are actually released. And then lastly, the schedule, which has the list of myself and all the TAs, our contact information, our office hours, and a schedule of the same. So the course lecture times and all the office hours times. This will look different by the time you guys see this video, so keep an eye on this page. Anytime you have actual questions, this is where to find out who and when to get those questions answered. All right, so let's go to the course outline then. So the course outline is a long document outlining all of your rights and responsibilities as a member of this course. So the course itself is described as an introduction to alternative programming paradigms such as functional, constraint-based, concurrent, and logic programming. So over the course of this term, we'll be introduced to some new programming paradigms, specifically functional programming with Scheme, or dialect of Lisp, and logic programming with Prolog. Now, the course is pretty much divided between these two languages, roughly about 70% Scheme and 30% Prolog near the end. But we'll consider some common features, design decisions, and terminology that's used by these languages that expands beyond just understanding these two languages. Throughout the course, we'll focus on some key themes, specifically fundamentals, combination, and abstraction. That is to say, we're going to start with some very simple building blocks, we'll combine them to make some complex expressions, and then we'll manage that complexity with abstraction to become simple again. Throughout this course, the expectation of effort is roughly about 10 hours per week spent between the lectures, the exercises, the assignments, and studying. All of that together, roughly 10 hours per week. You may find some weeks are more or less, but on average, roughly 10. So about these lectures, so lectures, as you might have already noticed, will be provided as asynchronous recordings, so the links will be on the course webpage and they'll be hosted on YouTube. The lectures themselves are considered to be an introduction to the material. In general, they'll consist of a mix of explanation and examples, but then a bunch of practice problems will be provided for each new chapter, excluding this first chapter. And I want you to go through and do all of these exercises as well. You'll be expected to have at least understood all of those, as well as the lecture materials and assignments and tests. Okay. If you have questions while viewing these lectures, unfortunately you can't just raise your hand and have an immediate response. But with an asynchronous, we have a bunch of other avenues available for getting those questions answered. I recommend writing down your questions when you first have them in case they might slip your mind later on. And then use the CU Learn forum for questions or stop by office hours to discuss them with myself or one of the TAs. So I should mention at this time that all of the office hours for this course will be held on the course's official Discord server. So under schedule, down at the very bottom, you'll find a link to the Discord server. If you click that, it should invite you to the server itself, which should give you access to something that looks like this. So we have a bunch of channels in here, an announcements channel, a general off-topic chat channel, and one for COMP3007. Now office hours will be held specifically in the voice channel here called Office Hours. There'll be a TA or myself sitting in there, and you can drop by and ask all the questions that you'd like. We can do video sharing, desktop sharing that is, if needed, otherwise just asking your questions and answering. So There's all the office hours there, the Discord forum. I recommend just joining the forum even if you don't have any questions to ask at the outset, because you never know what you might find there. All right, so back to the course outline. Where were we? Topics covered. So a list of the main topics covered here. We'll start with an introduction to paradigms and programming languages this week. And then moving on, we'll start talking about Scheme and Prolog. So Scheme first. We'll talk about an introduction to functional programming with Scheme. We'll learn about the complexity and abstraction, both with procedures and with data. We'll learn about understanding the environments of a program, as well as state, objects, and modularity. And then finally talking about metalinguistic abstraction, that is to say building scheme within Scheme. Following that, we'll move into an introduction to logic programming and Prolog. So the question that often arises at the beginning of this course is, why should we bother studying alternative paradigms at all? If I already know a language, why do I need to learn these other new languages, or possibly even these other old languages? There's a bunch of reasons. The first reason that I have written down, at least, is that there's an intrinsic value for knowing more things. That is to say, this is going to help broaden your understanding of what a programming language can be. Right? So to understand languages as they are doesn't mean that this is languages as they must be. You can expand your mind to think new thoughts and solve problems in whole new ways. Okay. Another reason for studying alternative programming paradigms is that it will improve your ability to program in the languages that you do know. It will expand your mind with new terminology and new language features, so you'll have more tools in your toolbox, and you'll have a firm understanding of when and how to use them. Beyond that, it'll also be easier to learn new languages. Chances are that will be a consistent thing in your future. You'll have to continue to learn new languages as they grow and evolve, but understanding languages as a concept into itself, rather than the specifics of a specific language, means that you're understanding the relationships or the details that are shared between different languages. This will let you quickly identify common themes, and then all you have to do to learn a new language is essentially apply this new syntax to the themes that you've already understood. Okay. And lastly, these alternative paradigms are not so alternative, at least in terms of functional programming. Most new languages are including these functional features in them, so learning these now means not having to learn them later. So overall, you'll be a better computer scientist for this experience, so it's certainly worth studying this course. Okay, back to the course outline. So next up is textbooks. So there's no required textbooks for this course. There are a few recommended textbooks. They're both free online. They're linked here and on the course main page. The first one is Structure and Interpretation of Computer Programs, affectionately known as the Wizard Book. This is essentially a tome of great renown in the Lisp language. Essentially, anybody who's programmed in Lisp has at least seen this book, if not opened and read several pages of it. It's a fairly old book at this point, but it stands up to the test of time as well. For Prolog, really any Prolog programming book will do. I recommend Prolog Programming, a first course. It's a great introduction to the sorts of things that we'll be doing in this course. All right, in terms of software that you'll need, you'll want the IDEs for coding in Scheme and Prolog. You can use your own IDE if you're familiar with it, but the TAs and myself, when grading your work, will be using these proprietary IDEs, specifically Dr. Racket for programming in Scheme, and SWI Prolog for programming in Prolog. Both of them are free and relatively easy to get set up. Again, if you have troubles, stop by office hours and we can get you set up that way as well. Okay, another thing you all came here to see, the evaluation scheme. So how will your grades be determined? So first off, there will be 5 assignments, 1 midterm, and 1 final exam. So of the 5 assignments, 4 of those assignments will be based in Scheme, and the last one will be based on Prolog. Now, the instructions for those assignments will be posted on the course webpage. There's a link. We've already seen that on the sidebar there. The problems will be relating to the material that we covered in lecture, as well as testing and documentation of all the code that you construct. So there will be marks provided for good coding practices as well as solving the required problems. All of your assignments will be submitted via CU Learn. They're typically due at 11:55 p.m. on whatever date, so just before midnight on the given day. There is a late penalty, so you are allowed to submit your assignments late, but you will lose 25% per day. And for the sake of making that penalty simple to calculate, 1 minute constitutes 1 day. So if your assignment is 1 minute late, it is 25% off. If it's a day and a minute late, then it's 50% off. So I recommend don't wait till the last minute to submit your assignments. At least intend to submit your assignments, I would say at least 2 hours in advance, if not more. All right. What else? So next is the midterm. So the midterm is tentatively scheduled during class hours on October 22nd. So most of this course is asynchronous, so the scheduled lecture times are essentially irrelevant except for the scheduling of this midterm. It prevents conflicts if we just schedule it during lecture. So there it is. So that's, I believe, a Thursday, October 22nd. I have all the course information here. Tuesdays and Thursdays, 4 to 5:30, and I believe the 22nd is a Thursday. So Thursday, October 22nd at 4 p.m. Till 5:30 p.m. The test itself, I've yet to actually construct, but it will likely be on CU Learn. More details as the course proceeds. Okay, scrolling down then. So midterm exam, and then the final exam. So the final exam will be very similar to the midterm. Again, these will be detailed in a bit more, or described in a bit more detail as we get closer to them. The values of these two things, so the midterm's worth 20%, the final exam's worth 35%. The midterm will cover everything up to and including the day before the midterm, so any content that we've covered in that time. And the final exam will be cumulative, so it'll cover the entire course up to including the very last day of class. All right. That's about it for assessment metrics. What else do we have? So there's a lot of details in this course outline. I highly recommend reading through all this. A lot of details regarding late policies and accommodations, submission guidelines for your assignments. There's no tutorials for this course, so we can hide that. Midterm as well, all sorts of details there that you might need. Okay. Next is academic integrity and collaboration. So to put it short, when talking about plagiarism, the simplest answer is just don't. Most people have a pretty good understanding of what it means to cheat on an assignment. The basic idea is these assignments are put out there so that I can get a good assessment of how well you understand the course material so that I can ascribe a meaningful grade on your final transcript. If you cheat, then you're essentially invalidating that metric. So if you invalidate that metric, a few things happen. First off, you cheat yourself of any education. So if you say, I didn't bother learning this material, but give me the grade anyways, well, then you're never going to learn that material, which may be great at first. You get a grade for nothing, but later on, once you go to actually apply some of this information in the real world, you'll find you don't have all the information that you should have gotten in this education phase. So you're here to learn, so you may as well do it properly. Secondly, if you cheat and are caught, your case will be passed off to the Office of the Dean of Science, where they will determine a sufficient penalty. Standard penalties from them correspond to a grade of F in the course for a first offense. A second offense results in a 1-term suspension from all studies, as well as an F in the course. And the third offense would result in an expulsion from the university. So rather severe, so it's best to err on the side of caution. If you're unsure, then it is best to ask myself or a TA, and we can guide you through this process. But as general guidelines, working together at a conceptual level is encouraged. It's a good thing, right? It's a good idea to ask your friends, I didn't understand this lecture point, can you explain it to me? Or can you walk me through this example? It's a bad idea to ask, can you show me your answers, right? As soon as you're copying answers or even viewing other people's answers or sharing your answers with someone, that's considered a case of academic misconduct. So, working together at a conceptual level is good, sharing solutions is bad. To that end, posting your solutions on the course forum or some other public forum also counts as plagiarism, as well as copying your answers from an internet source, such as Stack Overflow or Chegg or Course Hero or any of the other paid cheating websites out there. So, as I said, when it comes to cheating, the best idea is just don't, and if you're ever unsure, again, please ask. All right, next up is communication. So chances are you're going to want to reach out to myself or the TAs for a variety of different reasons throughout the semester. If those reasons are related to the course content, so if you have questions about the lecture material, some of the exercises, or some of the assignments, or even some of the tests, those questions should all be posted to the CU Learn forum. The reason I asked for that is it has the most eyes looking at that source, so you're more likely to get your answer quicker. As well, it will cut down on the number of repeat questions that need to be asked and answered, because if you ask the question, chances are several other students in the class are also thinking that same question, so by posting it for yourself, you're also posting it for them. Okay. If you have questions regarding the grading of your specific assignments, those should be directed to the TA who graded them. So if you're not sure why you lost marks, or if you'd like to get some more feedback about how you could have done something better, the grading TA is the first stop on that. If you have any accommodation requests, these should be emailed directly to me, just via email. My email is on the course website there if you need it. When sending any emails to anybody in the course, you should always include the course code in the subject line. So COMP3007, please help me, whatever you would need to say. So the subject should have the course code in it, and then whatever you actually want to ask. Okay. Beyond that, so I think that covers the course outline. There's lots of other stuff in here, computer accounts and support and all sorts of university policies. I recommend reading through all of this. It's expected that you will have read through all of these things. Again, this is your rights and responsibilities in the course. So if you've missed anything from in here, ignorance of those rights and responsibilities will not be considered an excuse. All right, that pretty much covers this video. So course outline, yeah, we've covered all of that. All right, so that's about it for this video. I will see you guys in the next video where we'll cover a brief introduction to languages and programming paradigms, sort of the context of the things that we'll be studying.